Society today has become desensitized to tragedy on a larger scale due to the types of media we allow you to be exposed to. Video games, TV shows, and movies, and lastly social media, have directly influenced the desensitization of human beings to violence. The first point of emphasis is that of the effect that video games have on the desensitization of violence. Although some may say that they play games and don't yet commit crimes or felonies, that is what studies were done on. The studies of video game violence are on the constant exposure of video games that continuously kill over and over again. This then takes away our emotion to feel saddened by death in reality. A study performed by Christopher Ferguson, a professor at Harvard University, demonstrates that violent video games do cause more aggression in people than people who do not play violent video games. Common video games that are used in these experiments include Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Halo, Grand Theft Auto, and Gears of War. New research involving these games has found that exposure to these games can desensitize individuals to real-life violence. According to the study by Christopher Ferguson, violent video games can alter physiological responses typically aroused by real violence. Past research reveals that exposure to violent video games increases aggressive thoughts, anger feelings, physiological arousal, and aggressive behaviors, and decreases helpful behaviors. Previous studies also found that more than 85% of video games contain some violence, and approximately half of the video games include serious violent actions. The latest study tested 257 college students, 124 men and 133 women individually. After taking the first set of baseline measurements of heart and skin response and asking questions to control their preference for violent video games and general aggression, participants played one of 8 randomly assigned violent or non-violent video games for 20 minutes. The four violent video games were Call of Duty, Halo, Grand Theft Auto, and Gears of War. The non-violent were NBA 2K, Minecraft, Mario Party, and Guitar Hero. After playing a video game, a second set of 5-minute heart rate and skin response measurements were taken. The conclusion from this study showed a direct correlation between aggressive and angry emotions to the violent video games, whereas the test subjects who played the video games maintained calm and happy emotions. This research not only concluded that violent video games cause aggressive and angry emotions, but it also causes humans to be desensitized to violence that happens around them on a daily basis. This is seen when head researcher Christopher Ferguson stated, due to aggressive behaviors and angry emotions caused by the violent video games, the test subjects began to get irritated at real-life violence and would then start to ignore the violence taking place around that individual. Now, that was the overall conclusion of the experiment done by Ferguson. The next point of emphasis that causes desensitization of violence is the amount of violence that is on the daily news and the amount of violent TV shows and movies that are aired. These two things combined may be the highest factor of all causes of desensitization of violence. Everyone today is exposed to violence on a daily basis, whether it is watching TV or passing a TV in the store and showing the news. And the news is doing a special on a homicide or school shooting. If you think about it, we're surrounded by violence, but we don't even know it. One example of this is the number of school shootings. Everyone remembers the tragic incident that befell Sandy Hook Elementary, but what about after that? In reality, no one knows. We have become so accustomed to these shootings that we start to block them out. Since Sandy Hook, and according to the Washington Post, there have been 126 school shootings. Also, according to Senator Chris Murphy, there have been on average 1 school shooting per week since Sandy Hook. These shootings have been on the news and in the newspapers, but because we have grown so accustomed to these types of things in the news, they are tuned out. This is not the only example that points to the desensitization of violence that we have been through. There's also the fact that the popular shows on Netflix are all shows that have violence in their main storyline. Some of these shows include NCIS, Arrow, The Patriot, Prison Break, and many others. Show after show, movie after movie can be named that depicts violence, blood, and gore, but for some reason these movies and shows are the most popular and most watched. I asked 30 students at Heston College if they thought a movie would be rated R due to its violent and bloody content. The majority of the answers were, and I quote, "If the violence and blood are the only reason it is rated R, then it shouldn't be rated R at all." Also, the rating system for movies have been slowly changing over the past decade. For example, according to the New York Times, R-rated movies in the 90s will be considered PG-13, and PG-13 movies now considered PG. From the same New York Times article, it states, because youth in America today are exposed to massive amounts of violence, sex, and drugs, they start to ignore and tune out what others may perceive as wrong. In other words, this article is saying that youth have seen large amounts of sex, violence, and drugs on TV and are slowly becoming numb and desensitized to these things. Again, TV shows and movies are a big part of this desensitization of violence, but this is not the only variable in the problem. The next variable that adds on to this problem is social media. Social media has been a growing craze in not only America, but many other countries as well. To put things in perspective, according to the Washington Post, if the number of monthly Facebook users were a country, it would be the second most populated country on the planet, just behind China. Not only is Facebook a hugely favored source of social media, but so is Twitter, Instagram, and Vine. These 4 types of social media are easily accessible to not only adults, but also young adults, youth, and the elderly. Through all of these types, there are many things in common between them, and one of these things is fight compilation videos. Not only are these videos frequently uploaded on social media sites, but also get thousands, if not millions, of likes and or retweets. In fact, according to New York Times, in 2013, the highest and most frequently searched keywords were fight compilation. To get beyond that, the video with the highest rating of the year was a fight video filmed after a school football game. Because these videos are so popular, they appear frequently. Not only do people watch these videos, but they do so in a way that it becomes entertainment and comedy for some. It's sad to think that not only do we not feel bad for people being hurt, but that these people who do end up being hurt are being laughed at in the process. That is part of the desensitization process that has continued to thrive in today's time. Not only is it easy to find videos, but it is also easy to see death and murder. For example, ISIS has a Twitter that has almost 50,000 followers and posts video after video of brutally murdering people, yet has still not been taken off Twitter. The reason this has not been taken off Twitter is unclear, but one reason may be that because people simply don't care about it or ignore it and keep scrolling. Although Twitter is not as popular as Facebook, many youth still use Twitter, and it is hard to break the trend if the youth won't carry the trend that their elders try to start. Social media has made it extremely easy for people to find violence, but in the end, no one cares. No one really notices it either. Overall, many people in today's time have grown accustomed to seeing violence everywhere they look, but that is not the problem. The problem is that we don't even know that we see it everywhere we turn. We are too accustomed to seeing violence that we tune it out, and that is the problem. And now it is our job to stop desensitization of violence and let people around the globe realize the problem facing us today.